James Rhodes is a tormented soul. It comes out in his music. It goes back to childhood. Today he won the right to tell the world that he was raped at school. His court battle was not with his abuser, but with his ex-wife, who didn't want their son to know. The Supreme Court said the story could be told. Might sound like a very odd question to start with, but do you have mixed emotions about today?
Yes, thank you. That's genuinely one of the most sensible and realistic questions I've been asked today. Sorry, I'm terribly emotional still. In one sense, of course, it's a victory for common sense, for freedom of speech. In another sense, that there are no winners here. This was 14 months of hell over a book about music. I mean, really, it feels insane to have come this far, that the amounts of money involved, the constant monitoring, the not being allowed to talk, that dreadful, sickeningly accurate parallels between what I was told age 6, shut up, don't talk, bad things will happen, and I mean exactly the same thing. Don't talk, bad things are happening right now, shut up, you can't say that, you can't tweet that, you have to take it down.
Are you happy to talk about what happened to you as a child? How old you were?
Between the ages of 6 and 10. It's a fine line. It's a fine line. It's hard to talk about, but not necessarily for the reasons you might think. It's one of the worst possible legacies of abuse in my experience, and is shame. This kind of toxic shame that does not finish. In fact, it somehow gets bigger when the abuse ends, and that's what they don't tell you. It's there, the ripples. You can't imagine the sleepless nights, the weird twitches, the myriad of symptoms, the multiple diagnoses of things that I can't even pronounce, let alone talk about, the medications, the side effects, all of that stuff is the legacy of, and even abuse. It's not abuse, it's abuse when you shout at a traffic warden for getting a ticket. This is child rape. I mean, let's call it what it is. And it's important to talk about it. So it went on for years. There was a teacher at the school who I loved. She was brilliant, and she witnessed it to an extent. She found me, for example, with blood coming down my legs, hysterical. And it was the 80s. It's not an excuse, but it was the 80s. Just like you could buy a house for 30 grand. No one cared about child protection back then.
As a 6-year-old, did you always know what was happening to you was wrong?
I knew it was painful as hell. I knew it was secretive. I didn't know, God, no one's ever asked me that. I don't think I did know it was wrong. Also, because the guy who did it was, to my eyes, he was something of a hero. Isn't that awful? He was big and strong, and he was kind to me.
The experience, he says, warped his understanding of relationships.
I'll give the perfect example. I'm 15, I get to go on my first date with a girl, and we're sitting in a restaurant, My Old Dutch on the King's Road. Do you remember that pancake place? I was so excited. She was really pretty. We have our dinner, and I look at her, I said, shall we go and have sex in the bathroom? As if, do you want to order coffee? It never occurred to me that people didn't do that.
Were you able to confide in anyone at that time?
No. Oh, God, no. Can you imagine? No. I tell you what, you reiterate to a 6-year-old again and again what will happen if he says anything. It ain't going to happen.
These were threats being made to you?
Terrible threats. Not even threats at the time. They weren't threats. They were truths. They were, if you do this, you cannot imagine what will happen.
The book has obviously caused a lot of anxiety for your ex-wife because she wants to protect your son. How do you feel about that?
Of course I have empathy for her. I have compassion for her. The truth is, I know my son. He's my son. He's the central miracle of my life. I love him more than I will ever be able to put in words. This is not a children's book. I do not believe that shielding him from the fact that abuse happens is in any way beneficial or right. Of course, I'm not going to sit him down and say, I wrote a book, dude. Check this out and see you in a few hours. Just like I wouldn't show him porn to educate him about sex or let him play Grand Theft Auto. They learn about this at school, as well they should. I would happily sit him down and in a loving, age-appropriate way with advice and with support and hopefully with his mum on the same page, explain that this happened and it happened to me.
Which piece of music kept you going through this court case?
A great question. What a lovely question. So many of them. God, have you got an hour? So many, but there's a new piece. I hated opera as a kid. I mean, who really likes it? Let's be honest. Even if they're really telling the truth, it was something I really struggled with. And then I was handed a recording of Mozart's opera. It's called Così fan tutte. It changed my life. Everything that is good in the world is in music like that, and that's the point of this book. That when all of that stuff was happening, when I was a kid and over the past 14 months, if something like this can exist, music like that, there has to be a reason to hang in there. There has to be something good out there. There just has to be.